She was just walking home, headphones in, lost in her thoughts, like any other day. But then, she saw him. Lying near a broken dumpster, barely breathing, his fur matted with blood, ribs poking through skin, eyes full of pain. A German shepherd. Big. Wounded. Silent. Most people walked right past him. Just another stray. Just another sad story the world had no time for. But not her. She stopped. She knelt down. She reached into her pocket and handed over the last $10 she had. She didn't know his name. She didn't know where he came from. And she definitely didn't know what this dog was about to do for her would leave her in tears. Her name was Lily. Just 19, with a heart way too big for a world that often felt too cold. She didn't have much, a small shared apartment, a part-time job at a bookstore, and just enough to scrape by each week. No fancy car. No big dreams. But what she did have was love. Especially for animals. Every day, on her way home, she'd pass this alley, dirty, forgotten, full of shadows. Most people avoided it. But Lily saw things others didn't. She noticed the limping cat under the stairs. She left scraps for the pigeons near the fence. And every now and then, she'd whisper to herself, "If I ever win the lottery, I'd open a rescue center. A real one. Big and warm. With music playing and no cages." But dreams cost money. And Lily had just $23 to her name that day. She was already feeling low. It had been a tough week. Her boss yelled at her, rent was late, and earlier that morning, she had to let go of the only gold necklace her mom left her, just to pay a bill. She walked home with heavy steps and heavier thoughts. Until she saw the dog. He was lying half hidden behind a pile of trash, like he'd already been forgotten. One of his legs twisted unnaturally, a deep wound on his side, and his breathing shallow, like every breath could be his last. In that moment, something inside her shifted. She couldn't just walk past. This wasn't about money. This was about a life. She asked a nearby food vendor if he knew anything. He shrugged. "Been there since morning," he said. "Looks like it won't make it through the night." Then came the part that changed everything. The vendor said, "If you really want it, I'll take $10. He's not mine. Just save me the trouble." $10. It was all she had in cash. But Lily didn't hesitate. She pulled the crumpled bill from her pocket, handed it over, and whispered, "You're coming home with me." What she didn't know was that she wasn't just saving a life. She was starting a story that would change her life forever. She named him Shadow. Not because he was dark or quiet, though he was both, but because he followed her like one, even from the start. The moment she laid him on that old blanket in her room, something changed in the air. His body was trembling, barely holding on. His breathing, rough, broken. There was dried blood in his fur. And his eyes? They didn't just look hurt. They looked tired, like he'd been running from something for a long, long time. Lily didn't know anything about treating wounds. But she knew how to love. She brought warm water, cleaned his cuts gently, and whispered, "It's okay now. I've got you." He didn't fight. Didn't growl. He just rested his head on her lap. That first night, she stayed up with him. No sleep. No phone. Just her and Shadow, and the quiet hum of the world outside. She fed him small pieces of boiled chicken. Wrapped his leg with an old scarf. Covered him with her only thick blanket. The one her grandma had knit years ago. She didn't post about it. Didn't tell anyone. Because deep down, it wasn't about showing kindness. It was about feeling it, maybe for the first time in a while. The next morning, he tried to stand, and fell. But Lily didn't panic. She just smiled softly and said, "We'll get there. One step at a time." Every hour she wasn't at work, she was with him. Brushing his fur. Singing softly. Reading old storybooks aloud like he could understand. And the strangest thing, he did seem to understand. His ears would twitch when she laughed. He'd nudge her hand when she cried. And sometimes, he'd just sit there, staring at her, like he saw something no one else ever had. Neighbors started noticing. "Where'd you get that dog?" someone asked. "He's beautiful, even with that limp," said another. But Lily never told them the full story. She just smiled and said, "He found me." And in a way, he had. What Lily didn't realize yet, was that this injured, $10 stray wasn't just healing. He was watching. Learning. Waiting. Because very soon, it would be his turn to protect her. Days turned into weeks. And slowly, Shadow began to change. The limp didn't vanish, but it got better. The wounds began to fade. And the dull sadness in his eyes. Little by little, it turned into something else. Trust. At first, he barely moved. Then one day, he followed her to the kitchen. Another day, she woke up to find him curled up by her bed instead of on the blanket across the room. And soon, he was waiting at the door when she came home. Tail wagging. Eyes glowing. Like he knew she'd come back. But it wasn't just his body healing, it was his spirit. And it wasn't just Shadow that was changing. Lily was, too. For the first time in months, she started smiling again. Laughing, even. She talked to Shadow like he was her roommate, telling him about her workday, her silly customers, the books she was reading. And when she cried, quietly, at night, thinking about the mother she lost years ago, Shadow would walk over and gently rest his head on her lap. No barking. No whining. Just quiet understanding. Like he knew. She started taking him on short walks. People would stare, some in awe, others with judgment. A thin girl with a limping German shepherd. Not exactly picture perfect. But Lily didn't care. Because to her, Shadow wasn't just a dog. He was family. She had no idea what kind of life he came from, or what horrors he might have seen. But there were signs. Sudden loud sounds made him freeze. Plastic bags. He'd flinch. Raised voices, even from the TV, made him retreat to the corner, tail tucked. Someone had hurt him. But Lily never pressed. Never forced him to face anything he wasn't ready for. She gave him space, time, and most of all, safety. And in return, Shadow gave her something even bigger. Unshakable loyalty. Wherever she went, he was there. Always watching. Always listening. It was like he made a silent vow to protect her, no matter what. And as odd as it sounds, Lily felt it. A sense that something powerful was building between them. Not just love. Not just trust. Something deeper. Something that would soon be tested in a way neither of them could ever prepare for. Because the night that changed everything was just around the corner. It was late. Too late. Lily had picked up an extra shift at the bookstore and didn't get home until almost midnight. The streets were quiet. Cold. That eerie kind of silence where every sound feels louder than it should. Shadow was waiting, like always, sitting by the door, tail gently thumping as she walked in. "Hey buddy," she whispered, hanging up her jacket. "Sorry I'm late." She fed him, changed into her pajamas, and curled up on the couch to rest her eyes for just a moment. But something woke her. A sound. A creak. Soft, deliberate. Like weight shifting on an old wooden floor. Lily sat up slowly, heart racing. Her apartment was small. One hallway. One locked door. One window she never left open. Shadow was already up. Not barking. Not growling. Just still. His ears were locked in. Body stiff. Eyes focused down the hallway. Then, another sound. The door. The lock. It was turning. From the outside. Lily's breath caught in her throat. She reached for her phone, but it was dead. Typical. She hadn't charged it. Then came a click. The door opened. Slowly. Cautiously. A man stepped in, hoodie, gloves, eyes scanning the room. He didn't see her right away. But Shadow did. And in that split second, he moved. Like lightning. This wasn't the same injured, limping dog she'd found weeks ago. This was something else. With a deep, thunderous growl, Shadow launched himself forward. No hesitation. No fear. The man barely had time to turn before 70 pounds of muscle and loyalty slammed into him. There was a crash, a struggle, then silence. Lily was frozen. Her hands were shaking. Her heart, pounding so loud she could hear it echo in her head. When she finally peeked around the corner, the intruder was on the floor, groaning, trying to crawl away. And Shadow? Standing over him. Teeth bared. Protective. Unmoving. Lily dialed the police from her neighbor's phone. The man was arrested. Turns out, he'd been caught breaking into other homes in the area. And he always targeted women who lived alone. Not this time. Not her. Because this time, she had Shadow. The officers couldn't believe it. This dog, one of them said, he's not just a pet. He's trained. Like military-grade trained. You're lucky. Lily didn't say anything at first. She just looked at Shadow, at the way he quietly walked back to her, limping a little, eyes soft again. He pressed his head against her side. And that's when the tears came. Not just because he saved her. But because he chose to. Because the dog she paid $10 for, the one everyone ignored, the one no one thought was worth saving, would have given his life to protect hers. And in that moment, she whispered through tears. You weren't just meant to be rescued, Shadow. You were meant to be my hero. After the break-in, Lily couldn't stop thinking about what the officer said. This dog, he's trained. The way Shadow moved. The way he pinned the intruder, protected her, it wasn't just instinct. It was precision. Like he knew exactly what to do. So she started asking questions. First, she called a local vet to do a full checkup. When they scanned his body, they found something unexpected. A microchip. The vet looked surprised. He was registered, he said. Years ago. Under a different name. Rocco. Rocco. Shadow had once been someone else's dog. The vet gave her a number. A name. Said the chip hadn't been updated in years. Most likely inactive. But Lily couldn't shake the feeling, there was more to this story. She dialed the number anyway. A woman answered. Elderly. Quiet. Rocco, she said, her voice cracking. He's alive. Her name was Margaret. She was 72 and used to live in another town over. Her son had trained Rocco when he served in the military. The dog had been part of a program for PTSD veterans. Rocco was more than a pet, he was a partner. He saved my son's life more than once, she said. But, my boy passed in an accident a few years back. Rocco ran off one day after that. I always thought, maybe he went looking for him. Lily listened, tears welling in her eyes. This dog she found near a dumpster, forgotten, broken, alone, had once been someone's everything. A protector. A war hero. A best friend. And when he lost his person, he lost his purpose. Until now. Margaret didn't want him back. She was too old to care for him. "But I'm so glad," she said, her voice trembling. "So glad he found someone who sees him." Lily hung up and sat beside Shadow, no, Rocco, or maybe both. She hugged him tightly and whispered, "You were never lost. You were just waiting for someone to need you again." And in his eyes, she saw peace. Not just survival, but healing. Some people said Lily was crazy. That she gave her last $10 to a dog that probably wouldn't survive. That she should have spent it on groceries, or rent, or herself. But here's the truth. She didn't save a dog that day. She discovered a miracle. A miracle wrapped in fur. Limping. Bleeding. Silently begging for one more chance to be seen. And by choosing love over logic, she didn't just change his life, he saved hers. Shadow, or Rocco, didn't need to be perfect. He just needed to be believed in. And that belief gave him the strength to become a hero once again. Lily would often sit by the window now, watching the world pass by. Shadow lying at her feet, calm, strong, protective as ever. Sometimes, she'd smile and whisper, "Who would have thought, $10 could buy me a guardian angel?" So the next time you see someone, or something, broken, hurting, forgotten, don't just walk by. Because behind that pain, might be the purest love you'll ever know. Not everything valuable comes with a price tag. Sometimes, the greatest things in life, come to you for $10 and a little bit of hope. If this story touched your heart, consider sharing it. And maybe hug your pet a little tighter tonight. Because you never know what kind of angel might be sitting at your feet.